final seconds. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
What's going on, everyone? Today I want to talk about what I think is one of the best, if not the best, NBA seasons of all time. The 2015-16 NBA season was filled with so many storylines that it's honestly difficult to remember all of them. So many notable things happened this year that would rewrite the record books, change the course of the league over the next few seasons, and help shape what it looks like today. Now, I know I'm fairly young. The only team Michael Jordan played for during my lifetime was the Wizards. I wasn't around for his prime to see his Bulls three-peat twice, though I did watch The Last Dance, and I have to say, I highly recommend it. It was fantastic. All 10 episodes were great. I wasn't around to see the Larry Bird-Magic Johnson rivalry of the 80s, or to see Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell average over 22 rebounds a game over their careers, a number simply unfathomable in today's game. You may call it recency bias, but I want to at least make my case here. These are the top 10 storylines that helped make the 2015-16 NBA season one of the greatest ever. Before we get into it, I want to give an honorable mention to the 2016 Slam Dunk Contest showdown between Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon. People probably remember how controversial it was that Gordon wasn't crowned champion of dunk contest this year, but his performance in 2016 was equally deserving of the title. The only problem is that he just happened to have that performance the same year Zach LaVine also gave us one of the greatest dunk contest performances of all time. In the end, LaVine edged Gordon out, but both players gave us something we continue to talk about for a long time, especially considering Gordon arguably got robbed again at this year's contest. Number 10. 76ers go historically bad 10-72. Yep, that's right. I'm starting this list off by making fun of my own hometown Philly sports team. This season was such a bad season that it simply cannot be ignored. The Sixers were already coming off of 1963 and 18-64 seasons the previous 2 years. The reason they were so bad was because new general manager Sam Hinkie decided it was no good sitting in mediocrity. So he essentially blew the team up with the idea of tanking for high draft picks and starting all over, in a process now infamously remembered as, well, the process. By the time the 2015-16 season began, he had already traded away his 2013 draft pick and 2014 Rookie of the Year Michael Carter-Williams, and the team was still clearly in no place to be a contender. They started the season 1-30 through 31 games. 1-30. And their one win, of all the games they could have won, had to be Kobe Bryant's final game in Philadelphia. Seriously, they came that close to an 0-31 start to the season, which would have been so special and so epic that I wouldn't have even been able to be mad about it. But the one win that got in the way had to be Kobe's final homecoming in Philadelphia. I mean, seriously, the Sixers were tanking, the game meant nothing to them, the least they could have done was giving Kobe a good hometown send-off before he retired. The 10-72 record was just one game better than the worst 82-game season in NBA history, which ironically also belongs to the Philadelphia 76ers, set in 1972-73. If there's any silver lining to this though, the Sixers would earn the number 1 overall pick in the 2016 draft, which they'd use on Ben Simmons, who's adapted to the NBA surprisingly well, and has been an all-star the previous 2 seasons. We'll see how the Sixers do going forward now that Brett Brown is gone. Number 9. Warriors go a historically good 73-9. While the Sixers were tanking like they'd never tanked before, and got off to the worst start of any professional sports team ever, the Warriors got off to the best start of any professional sports team ever. Golden State started the season 24-0, and the crazy thing is that they didn't even have head coach Steve Kerr for the first 43 games of the season. While Kerr was on an indefinite leave of absence to rehabilitate his back, assistant coach Luke Walton took over for Kerr, and Walton went 39-4 in Kerr's place. Though the NBA technically credited those games to Kerr's record, something even Kerr himself thought was ridiculous. The Warriors went 34-5 after Kerr's return, and Kerr was named Coach of the Year. Walton would actually finish 9th in Coach of the Year voting himself, and Golden State looked set to run away with the championship, but there was something else standing in their way. More on that later, of course. Number 8. Championship team changes coaches mid-season. When LeBron James returned to the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2014, the team signed David Blatt to be their next head coach. Blatt was a bit of an unknown in America, but he'd made a name for himself as one of the top coaches in Europe. Despite having made the finals in 2015, and starting this season with a 30-11 record, Blatt was fired mid-season, with general manager David Griffin citing a lack of fit with personnel and the team's vision. Blatt was replaced by Cavs assistant coach Tyronn Lue, who ended up guiding the team all the way to the championship. And again, more on that later. Number 7. Spurs go 40-1 at home. In the Greg Popovich-Tim Duncan era, the San Antonio Spurs were always contenders. They'd won 5 championships since 1999 and always, and I mean literally always, won at least 50 games throughout the season. But their 2015-16 regular season was particularly impressive. The Spurs went 67-15 overall and 40-1 at home, tying the 1985-86 Celtics for most home wins in a single season. Their one loss to the 73-9 Warriors. Going undefeated at home would have been a pretty incredible story, but knowing Popovich and the culture of the Spurs, they probably wouldn't have cared at all without a championship to go with it. Number 6. Stephen Curry hits over 400 three-pointers. Steph Curry is arguably already the greatest three-point shooter in NBA history. In the 2012-13 season, Curry set the NBA record for most three-point field goals in a single year with 272. He'd break his own record in 2014-15 with 286. And then, this season, he'd straight up demolish it. Curry not only became the first player to hit 300 three-pointers in a single season, he surpassed 400 threes, hitting 10 of them in the Warriors' final game of the year to bring his season-long total to an unfathomable 402. To give you an idea of just how dominant Curry was from three-point range, he set the single-season record on February 27th. You know, the Saturday night game he hit the crazy long three-pointer in overtime against Oklahoma City, and also tied the single-game record for most threes. There was a month and a half left in the season, and he'd already set a season-long record. I don't care what sport you're talking about, that's just unheard of. Curry's season was so impressive that it leads right into number 5. Curry becomes the first unanimous MVP. Up until this point, the NBA Most Valuable Player Award, which is voted on by a panel of sports writers and broadcasters, had never been a unanimous decision. Shaquille O'Neal and LeBron James came closest in 1999-2000 and 2012-13 respectively, each falling one vote shy of winning the award unanimously. But Steph Curry's 2015-16 regular season was so incredibly special and saw him shatter so many records that he earned all 131 first-place votes. Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James respectively would have to settle for second and third. Number 4. 3 greats go out together. Kevin Garnett came into the NBA in 1995 as the first player to be drafted directly out of high school in 20 years, setting a trend for seasons that followed. The following season, Kobe Bryant was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets, though he'd soon be traded to the Lakers where he'd play his entire career and go on to win 5 championships. Tim Duncan was taken first overall by the Spurs and would win 5 of his own, while Garnett would get to experience a championship with the Boston Celtics in 2008. Altogether, these players combined for 11 championships, 48 NBA All-Star appearances, and were elected to the same Hall of Fame class together. Garnett and Duncan would bow out quietly after the 2015-16 season, not announcing their retirements until the offseason. Bryant, however, made it clear early on that this season would be his last, giving him the opportunity for a final send-off game at Staples Center. And what a game it was. Number 3. Kobe dropped 60 points in his final game. Kobe Bryant was one of the greatest scorers in NBA history, once outscoring the entire Dallas Mavericks team 62-61 in 3 quarters of play, and scoring 81 in a single game against the Toronto Raptors in 2006. But after his injury, few thought he could recapture that same level of scoring dominance, especially during his final season. But on the night of his final game ever, Bryant shocked the world by leading the Lakers to a comeback victory over the Utah Jazz 101-96 and scoring 60 points along the way, making for one of the greatest final performances by any athlete in any sport. And for all the crap he got for never passing the ball, he even ended his career on an assist to Jordan Clarkson. Kobe was the greatest of his decade and one of the greatest of all time, and it's still hard to believe he's gone almost a year later. His legacy and impact on the game will never be forgotten. Number 2. A pair of 3-1 playoff comebacks. Parity is usually at its weakest in the NBA. Single-game eliminations in the NFL mean it's entirely possible for a wildcard team to get hot at the right time and go on to win the Super Bowl. And scoring is rare enough in hockey and baseball that a lower-ranked team that also gets hot at the right time can go on a win streak and make an improbable playoff run of their own. In the NBA, however, the better team almost always wins the 7-game series. While 3-0 comebacks are extraordinarily rare, they have happened in the NHL and even once in Major League Baseball. But it's never happened in the NBA. And 3-1 comebacks aren't exactly commonplace either. But in the 2016 playoffs, 2 3-1 comebacks happened late in the postseason. The Thunder took a commanding 3-1 lead against the heavily favored 73-9 Warriors, but Golden State found a way to bounce back and took the series in 7 games to advance to the finals. The Warriors would then go up 3-1 themselves against the Cavs in the finals, and, well, we all know what happens next. Number 1. LeBron delivers on his promise. Before LeBron James was a global superstar, he was just a kid from Akron, Ohio. So it was fitting that his hometown Cleveland Cavaliers were able to draft him with the number 1 overall pick in 2003. James would experience some success in the coming years, even making the finals in 2007, albeit getting swept by the Spurs. He wanted more, however, so in his words, he took his talents to South Beach and joined the Miami Heat in 2010, leaving his hometown furious with his now infamous decision. After winning 2 titles in Miami, the Heat lost in the 2014 finals, ironically again to San Antonio. James opted out of his contract and announced via a first-person essay in Sports Illustrated, "I'm coming home." After making the finals again the year before, James led the Cavs to a 7-game series victory over the team with the greatest regular season in history. His finals performance was so dominant that he led both teams in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks during the series, the first time that happened in any playoff series ever, and his incredible chase-down block on Andre Iguodala helped hold the Warriors scoreless over the last 3.5 minutes of Game 7, allowing the Cavs to take Cleveland's first sports championship since the Browns won the NFL championship in 1964.
Cleveland! This is for you! Oh!
So there you have it, just some of the reasons that made the 2015-16 NBA season one of the best of all time. Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Ben Schneider, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.